when I meet someone, the second question he'll ask me after what is your name is, how much is my business worth?
Right.
And it's a very difficult question to answer. Been in the M&A industry for the last over 20 years, let's call it. I've started in the industry as a junior investment banker. Never really held the role of analyst. I started in M&A boutique firms and stayed in boutique firms my entire career. Lots of international experience. For a while, I was with a investment banking boutique shop called IJW, and we had some offices in Hong Kong and Singapore. So I spent a lot of time in Asia. I've also done some transactional work with companies based in Europe and in the U.S.
Okay.
In terms of industries, we like to say here in Montreal that we don't have the luxury of specializing in one specific industry. We tend to stay away from certain industries that we don't have much experience in. As far as I'm concerned, I've done some transactional work in the retail business, manufacturing, also in SaaS-based businesses. I've done some capital raising, and I stay away from industries such as natural resources and mining. Those are not my specialty.
So you say you didn't do any analysis role. Like, what was the role that you went into when you started the M&A, like M&A process?
Yeah, it's an interesting way that I entered into the industry. I actually have a trading background. Started my career in a public company called Reuters, which has since been bought out by Thomson here in Canada. And so for the first 10 to 12 years of my career, I worked with large institutional investors, large trade floors. It was a very exciting time working for Reuters and just working with traders who were using the systems on the trade floor. I decided to evolve and sort of jump the fence from that role. I traded foreign exchange for a certain period in my career. And when you're trading foreign exchange, there's really two roles. There's the sales role and there's the trading role. So you always do it as a partnership. I had a partner who was more of a trader and I was more on the sales side, but I did a lot of trading, which helped me to understand how the public markets and the trading markets worked. And also in terms of formal training, I had to take some courses in how to trade derivatives and options and futures and to put together what we call synthetic products, which were a very interesting way of understanding the financial markets. From there, a small investment banking boutique firm here in Montreal approached me and said that they needed someone who was less on the financial side and more on the relationship side to take care of their investment banking business. And that's how I got started.
What drawn you in the M&A space? You worked at the boutique and looks like you kind of loved that process. Like, what made you kind of drawn in that industry?
It's the best job in the world and it's the worst job in the world. It's I find my role, my job to be extremely exciting. I try to explain sometimes what we do. The most interesting part about being an investment banker or an M&A advisor is that every day your schedule, your life is ridiculoely different.
Right.
From one day you can be in a company that makes construction equipment, you're wearing work boots and you're in the mud trying to understand how their equipment works. The next day you are talking to an entrepreneur who's got a startup in the SaaS industry, for example, and is looking to raise some money, and he's got like an incredible growth rate in his company. So it's completely different. And I've had the chance over the years to meet and analyze and take a look at such varied business. It's extremely interesting to meet new entrepreneurs who have a manufacturing business, for example, and they explain to you what their process is, visiting the manufacturing plants and various businesses, and the passion that the entrepreneurs have in their businesses is it's an aphrodisiac, to be honest. You meet these people, they infuse energy in what we do. So the best part of what I do is really meeting the entrepreneurs, learning about their businesses, and also I should probably mention that in our role, it's very important to understand the business
Yep.
almost as much as the owner of the business. The entrepreneur gives us a mandate to sell the business. When we meet prospective buyers, we need to be able to talk about this business in the same way that the entrepreneur would talk about his business. And what that means is making sure you understand completely how the business works, but also the passion that the entrepreneur has for his business.
Yeah, and that's something I wanted to talk about. Like, how did you prepare for all this stuff? Like you said, like first day is a manufacturing company, second day is like the SaaS company. How did you kind of like become an expert in those industry with like in such a little time and getting to? Because part of you is basically selling the idea that they potentially want to sell their business and become like they can become a client to you. Like, how did you become an expert in those industry? How do you perceive yourself as an expert in that industry when you're selling?
You see, that word expert is a very interesting word. I don't consider myself to be an expert in anything. I sometimes try to explain my profile in the following way. You've got people, especially people who do what I do in the US, that specialize in one industry. As I said at the beginning, here in Canada, we don't have the luxury of specializing in one industry. So what I like to say is my profile is it's very wide and it's not as deep, which means I'm very knowledgeable in a lot of subjects. And so I can talk about a lot of these things. And this has been my experience in working with numerous entrepreneurs in numerous industries. So I can go from a manufacturing business to a distribution business to a technology business and understand the business plan, which is what is most important in our role as business advisors, is to come in and try and understand the business and to advise the entrepreneur as to how he can best put forth his business, either to sell it or to grow it or to raise capital for his business. So that in a way, that's our role. But I don't like to think of myself as an expert in any specific industry.
Like, what are some of the surprising trends you've seen in the M&A space recently that business owners should be, aware of, like when they're considering selling their business or like they're actually selling their business? Like, what are the things that you think would be something that they would need to have, or trendy stuff that you think that would be valuable to them?
Well, to be quite specific, we're approaching the end of 2024 right now. The year 2024 in M&A has changed considerably from the first two quarters to the last two quarters. There was a significant change on September 1st, literally on that day. I noticed a significant change in the level of activity in the M&A world. It's all over the media. There is a considerable trend towards transfer of businesses. I mean, everybody is hearing it. We advisors like to say that we've heard about this trend for 20 years. It seems like it is finally happening. One thing I'd like to say, which I find is important, is we see these statistics about businesses that will be transferred in Quebec and in Canada, because that's the market that concerns us most. And we come up with these numbers. Sometimes 30,000 is thrown out, 50,000 businesses thrown out. I do like to tell people that that number is not the total number of businesses that will be transferred. In a business transfer, there is a certain size that needs to be achieved in order to sell the business and to use advisory services to sell the business. So of all these businesses that we are being told will be transferred, it's a smaller percentage of these businesses that will actually transfer to a new ownership and that will go through an M&A process. I think that's important to note.
Right.
Some entrepreneurs will simply sell their businesses internally. They'll do an MBO. It'll be a family business, and they will give it up to their children. And unfortunately, there's quite a few businesses that will close. And part of the reason for that is some of these entrepreneurs, sometimes they meet us and the first question they ask of an advisor is, how much is my business worth? Yeah. And it's not an easy question to answer. There's many variables that need to be taken into account in order for us to give a proper valuation on the business. The size of the business is also very important. So the smaller the business, the harder it is to evaluate the business. And very often when we tell an entrepreneur the value of his business. If it's a smaller business, they will say, listen, I make more money if I keep my business for 2 or 3 years, so therefore I will not sell my business, which leads to some of these businesses never being sold because the entrepreneur will simply keep them and not put them up on the market.
Right. And you're also saying like the industry trends right now, like there's a lot of like baby boomers that are gonna, sell their business, and they're seeing a big trend of that. Why is it important for them to, get an advisor? Like why do you think it's important for them to get it to sell,
Well, thanks for the pass right on the tape here, trying to emphasize my business. In all seriousness, the process of selling a business, and once again of a certain size, is much more complex than anyone who's never done it will tell you. There are many professionals that need to be involved in the process, from your accountant to your tax specialist to your lawyer to your advisor to your banker. There's a whole team of people that need to be put together in order to go through a proper process. Very often when I meet clients, the first thing that they say is they will come to us to meet prospective buyers. And quite honestly, that's not the hardest part of the process of selling a business. Of course, we have some expertise there. We've got lists, we've got all kinds of people that we can talk to, but finding prospective buyers for a business is actually the very first part of a very long process of selling a business. Perhaps important to say at this juncture in the conversation that I tell entrepreneurs that on average, it takes a year to sell a business, a full 12 months, from the time that we first meet to the actual conclusion of the sale. If we can do it in eight months, that's great. But I will be honest with you, I haven't seen that very often. And again, it depends on the size of the transaction and what kind of process we're in. So the answer to your question about being properly advised is you will save time by using the expertise of someone who's been through the process before. You will save money. You will most likely have more money left over after the transaction by using the proper expertise. There's a lot of very simple things that we see every day that we can help with. So be it putting together the LOI and making sure that the proper clauses are in the LOI when we first get started on the process, all the way to making sure that the lawyers put the SPA together, the share purchase agreement, so that some of the most likely clauses are in the share purchase agreement so that you have a proper transaction. So I mean, we could spend the entire hour just talking about what needs to be done, but I guess what needs to be concluded from what I'm saying is by being properly accompanied in selling your business, the process that is already quite arduous will be a little bit easier.
Got it. That makes sense. And I know this might be a broad question, but like, what do you think are the uncommon things that a business owner should do to start maximizing their valuation, right? Because they'll look at the numbers and it'll be like, well, I can sell my company at like 7x, so someone told them they can sell at 7x, right? Maybe they're at 4.3 or something like that. Like what do you think are the things that they can do day one that would help them to get as close to 7x as possible?
Yeah, there's a term that we use in the industry. It's called anchor bias. When a business owner is told either by an advisor, a banker, an accountant, a fellow business owner that's in the same industry, or his brother-in-law, that his business is worth this much, that creates what we call anchor bias, which is that's a number that sticks in his head. Whether it's a concrete number as to how many X dollars his business is worth, or the EBITDA multiple like you just mentioned, that will stay with him. It's something that we as advisors are very careful about. When I meet someone, the second question he'll ask me after what is your name is, how much is my business worth?
Right.
And it's a very difficult question to answer. Like I said, it depends on the size of the business, some variables, cycles, where it is, profitability compared to other businesses, how leveraged the business is compared to his industry, for example. So there's many factors that need to be done. So there's a couple of ways of evaluating the business. I'm involved in a company called Optionality, which is a SaaS dashboard co-pilot. And what we are doing at Optionality is we're using artificial intelligence to take industry comparables and to take past transactions, and we use artificial intelligence to come up with what we call a football field evaluation. So that's an example of how a business owner or an advisor can use a tool that is available out there, in our case, Optionality, to get an idea of how much the business is worth. But once again, I insist, the proper valuation of a business should be done eventually by what we call a CBV, a Chartered Business Valuator, that will put together, using 3 different methodology, what the business is worth. And as an advisor, we often tell our clients we should get a CBV valuation done on the business because it'll give us a proper idea of what the business is worth. Now, while we're talking about how much a business is worth, I had a colleague tell me years ago, and I still adhere to this principle. There's 2 prices to a business. There's what it's worth and what people will pay. And that's very often 2 different things. And perhaps I can talk to you about the different types of buyers that we have out there. When we put a company up for sale, we really have 2 large categories of buyers. We have strategic buyers and we have financial buyers. So your financial buyers will be family offices, private equity firms, search funds, which are the funds that are put together specifically to buy a type of business. And then you will have strategic buyers, which are companies that evolve or operate in the same industry as your company. And depending on the size of the business and things, your ideal buyer will be either a financial buyer or a strategic buyer. Typically, a strategic will pay more for a business because there are reasons why the 2 companies should be combined, for example, but it's not always the case. More and more, we have financial buyers out there that are looking for proper opportunity. The market is quite competitive in buying good companies and good opportunities. And we have some pent-up cash in some of the financial buyers. What that means is we've gone through a period where there wasn't a lot of good companies available for sale. So some of these investment funds are sitting on capital. They have what we call pressure on capital, and they are looking for proper opportunities. So they will sometimes pay a little more than what they are used to doing, because once a good opportunity comes on the market, they're very interested in looking at that opportunity. So the thing about being an advisor, the best thing about being an advisor, your strategy should be to try and find the best opportunities. Because in this market, when you find good opportunities, there are multiple buyers for good opportunities.
And you mentioned about optionality. How does it impact you from your work on what you did in the past about building a estimated valuation, meeting a client, be prepared before and after using optionality?
Yeah, it's a huge difference. When Simon Leroux called me, the founder of Optionality, and showed me the product, the initial conversation that we have, I've known Simon for a while. We worked together on a capital raising mandate in the past, but he showed me the SaaS solution, and truthfully, he was asking me if it was something that I would use in my everyday work. And I was so convinced by the usability of Optionality for a certain type of advisors that I suggested to Simon that we work together, and that I help in the company to help them with the roadmap and to help them to talk to advisors such as myself. So one of the things that I tell the team here at Optionality is the way that we present the solution to potential advisors is to say, the solution will save you a lot of time. So having gone through the process many times, of course, in my career, there's a lot of time spent on finding past transactions and comparables and industry statistics and things like that. What Optionality will do for you is by simply putting in a URL, it goes to the website, it uses all the algorithms of artificial intelligence. We have large language models that analyze some of the things that are being said. We have web scraped press releases, for example, in the company, and it will generate just a first idea of, again, like I said, valuation and past comparables and descriptions of the industry and things like that. The time that is saved by doing this, when you are working on a mandate, is tremendous. Now, what's important to understand is the solutions that we have right now will not 100% generate all of the analysis that you need to do or generate the documentation that you need to do in a process, but it will certainly save you a large part of the initial hours that you will put into this analysis. So what I find is most important about the new tools that are generated and optionality in particular is it's helping us in this industry to just generate some of the basic analysis that we can start using to have conversations with our prospective clients.